In 1588, the most powerful naval fleet ever assembled set sail to invade England and crush the rising Protestant nation once and for all. The Spanish Armada, 130 ships carrying 30,000 men, seemed unstoppable. But a combination of bad weather, tactical brilliance, and sheer luck saved England. What if the weather had been calm? What if Spain had won? Today, we're exploring how one naval battle could have changed the entire course of world history. The year is 1588, and Spain is the undisputed superpower of Europe. King Philip II controls Spain, Portugal, parts of Italy, the Netherlands, and a vast empire stretching across the Americas. Gold and silver from the New World flow into Spanish coffers. The Spanish military is considered invincible. England, by contrast, is a small island nation, recently turned Protestant under Queen Elizabeth I. Philip sees England as a heretical nuisance that must be eliminated. He also wants revenge. The English have been supporting Dutch rebels against Spanish rule, and privateers like Francis Drake have been raiding Spanish ships and colonies. So Philip assembles the Spanish Armada, the largest invasion fleet Europe has ever seen. The plan is to sail up the English Channel, pick up a Spanish army from the Netherlands, and invade England. Once London falls, Elizabeth will be deposed, Catholicism restored, and England absorbed into the Spanish Empire. In our timeline, the plan failed spectacularly. English fire ships disrupted the Spanish formation. Storms scattered the fleet. Only half the ships made it back to Spain. But what if the weather had cooperated? What if Spanish tactics had been better? Let's explore this alternate history. In this alternate timeline, the crucial difference comes in late July 1588. The weather remains calm. The Spanish fleet maintains its tight defensive formation that English ships can't break. Spanish tactics are slightly better. They engage the faster English ships more effectively and manage to land the invasion force successfully on English shores. The Spanish army, battle-hardened veterans from European wars, overwhelms the hastily assembled English defenders. These are professional soldiers who've been fighting in the Netherlands for years, facing poorly trained English militias who've never seen real combat. Within weeks, Spanish forces march on London. Queen Elizabeth considers fleeing to Scotland but is captured trying to escape. By September 1588, London has fallen. England surrenders. Elizabeth I is either executed for heresy or imprisoned for life. Philip II installs a Catholic monarch, possibly one of his relatives or an English Catholic noble who remained loyal to Rome. England becomes a Spanish client state, similar to Portugal, which Spain had absorbed just 8 years earlier. The Protestant Reformation in England is violently reversed. Protestant churches are destroyed or converted back to Catholic worship. Protestant leaders are arrested, executed, or forced to flee to Protestant countries like the Netherlands or German states. The Anglican Church is abolished. Thousands flee England as religious refugees. English nobles who resist are stripped of their lands and titles. Spanish administrators take control of English government. Spanish becomes the language of the court and administration, though common people continue speaking English. This is where the timeline changes most dramatically. In our history, England became Great Britain, built the world's largest empire, and dominated global trade for centuries. None of that happens in this alternate timeline. Without an independent England, there's no British colonization of North America. The settlements at Jamestown and Plymouth never happened. The 13 colonies that became the United States never exist. North America is divided between Spain, France, and the Netherlands. The East India Company never forms. Britain never conquers India. Spain or the Dutch likely fill that vacuum. Australia and New Zealand are never colonized by the British. Perhaps the Dutch claim them instead. The entire concept of the British Empire is erased from history. The pink on the map showing British territories that once covered a quarter of the Earth simply doesn't exist. With England subdued, Spain becomes utterly dominant in Europe. There's no balance of power to check Spanish ambitions. France, Spain's traditional rival, faces a Spanish-controlled empire now including England's resources and navy. The Dutch rebellion against Spain likely fails without English support. The Netherlands remains under Spanish Catholic control. This means no Dutch Golden Age, no Rembrandt, no major trading companies, no tolerant Amsterdam becoming a refuge for Jewish refugees and freethinkers. Protestant Germany becomes isolated and vulnerable. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, might be much shorter, with Catholic forces crushing Protestant states quickly without English interference. All of Northern Europe might be forcibly reconverted to Catholicism. Here's something profound. Much of what we call Western values, religious tolerance, individual liberty, parliamentary democracy, free speech, developed in Protestant England and the Netherlands. These ideas spread during the Enlightenment and eventually transformed the world. In a Spanish-dominated Europe, Catholic orthodoxy and absolute monarchy remain unchallenged. The Enlightenment either doesn't happen or happens much later and weaker. The scientific revolution is slowed by religious censorship. Books that challenged religious authority in our timeline, works by Hobbes, Locke, Newton, Darwin, are either never written or banned by the Inquisition. Universities remain under church control. Science advances much more slowly. Without English colonies, North America develops completely differently. Spanish culture, language, and Catholicism dominate. The United States never exists. Instead, perhaps a collection of Spanish colonial provinces eventually gain independence in the 1800s, similar to Latin America in our timeline. These nations would be culturally and linguistically Spanish. Imagine North America where everyone speaks Spanish, where Catholicism is the dominant religion, where the culture resembles Mexico or Argentina more than the USA we know. The American Revolution, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, none of these world-changing documents exist. The ideals of democracy and individual rights that America championed and exported globally never spread the same way. Fast forward to today in this alternate 2025. Spanish, not English, is the world's dominant language. The global lingua franca of business, science, and diplomacy is Spanish. Former Spanish territories, which include most of Europe and the Americas, share closer cultural bonds. Perhaps a Spanish Commonwealth, similar to our British Commonwealth, exists, with Spain at its center. Democracy developed later and spread slower without English and American examples. Many countries might still have monarchies or authoritarian governments. The ideals of individual liberty and human rights that English-speaking nations championed are less universal. Technologically, the world is probably less advanced. The Industrial Revolution might have happened later or differently without Protestant work ethic and English innovation. Scientific progress was slower under stronger church influence. The defeat of the Spanish Armada was one of history's most consequential moments. It allowed a small island nation to eventually build the world's largest empire, spread the English language globally, and export ideas about liberty and democracy that transformed humanity. If Spain had won in 1588, we'd live in a fundamentally different world. One speaking Spanish, more Catholic, less democratic, and without the Anglo-American influence that has shaped the last 4 centuries. One storm, one battle, changed everything.